Didn't
young friend, you might want to go easy on that one if you have that much easy ammunition for him to strike back at you.
Hey, I found my key that I lost.
Where was it?
In my bag.
It's always the best.
Did you you said though you're still finishing classes too, right? So you're still.
I'm still in my master's, yes.
So I think it's time to start. Hi to everybody, and this is the last IETF session, and RADEXT usually is either the first or the last. So we schedule it in the extreme slot positions. So this is Notewell. This is a new Notewell that was just issued by ISG. You can see these QR codes, and if you follow these QR codes, you will have a more detailed text, I believe. Then a usual reminder about to be polite and professional and not to make any personal. You can disagree, but do it politely and not to do any personal attacks on your colleagues. And so meeting details, I am Valery Smyslov, Margaret Cullen is on site, and our responsible AD is Paul Waters. I can't see him, but it's difficult for me to see the whole room.
It's not here
So
yet.
Okay. So some useful links to the slides, to the LEAP chat, and to notes. And we have to do some administrative tasks, and we have to blue sheets are collected automatically, and we need volunteers to take notes. So anyone volunteering?
Anyone to take notes? I think
Yeah.
I think we have a couple people who are gonna cooperate.
So I just can see the room. So
John, Fred, and
is-
Ethan are gonna
okay.
both do it and cooperate. Like, you gotta be careful when Jan Fred's presenting, for instance, here.
Okay, so I will monitor the chat. If you have something to relay to the mic, just say mic, print mic to the chat, and I will try to monitor it. Just one new slide for the chair's deck. It's a liaison statement, liaison letter that we received from a VBA CTO, and this letter encourages RADEXT working group to work on the document related to Wi-Fi mobility, and there is a list of drafts that have endorsement from VBA, and so we just should take it into consideration that there is a strong support for work on this draft in this working group. And then agenda. So we have few presentations, and at the end of the session, we are going to discuss rechartering of RADEXT working group, because we seem to very close to completed most of our tasks in the current charter, and we have a bunch of new possible work items, candidates for work items, and there is a strong interest in the working group to work on these issues, on these drafts. So we just have to formally be able to adopt all these documents. So we have to have a new charter, and so we can discuss it now. What should be, because current charter is very narrow focused. It's just lists very few documents that should be done in this working group. according to the current chapter. And this new document formally do not completely fit into the current chapter, so we need to chapter. So any agenda bashing?
Nobody seems
Okay,
to be
then we can start. The first, I think it's TLS radius with TLS DTLS bis, and I will pass slide control to the clicker.
Yes, that would be nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Let me adjust the mic. Okay. So back again. We had a lot of changes. One of the changes is hidden on the slide, which is making RADEXT a proposed standard. What happened since the last IETF in Madrid? We had a working group last call. We received comments. The working group last call ended. We received more comments. Margaret started the Shepherd review and had some more comments. So thank you for all commenters. It makes the document better. I really mean that. But of course, stretches out the process. But I think we will have a very good document in the very end. We had a lot of discussion during the hackathon and during the time in between sessions here at the meeting. So we did a lot of changes that are not yet represented in the data tracker. So all of these changes are still in the GitHub repository with the working copy of the draft. So the big changes that we have in the document as of right now with a working copy in GitHub, we changed the name from radius DTLS with a D in parentheses to RADEXT to mean both radius TLS and radius DTLS. So we remove the parentheses from the protocol name because it confuses everyone. Should you say radius DTLS and mean radius TLS and DTLS? Should you say radius TLS and mean both? Just use RADEXT. So we use the term RADEXT throughout the document when we truly mean either TLS or DTLS. And it's much easier to read. Then one of the comments from Margaret was that we have the appendices in the current document in the data tracker, where we talk about successful deployments of the previous radius TLS and radius DTLS specifications, which is eduroam and open roaming. And we don't really need this in a standards track document. There are some statements there that don't have sources, except for the people who wrote this are in the environment and they know what they're talking about, but that's probably not what we want for a standards track document. So we removed the appendices and we updated the terminology to be clearer about what we actually mean. When do we mean a UDP datagram? When do we mean a radius packet? And all that. So what is to do? So I've included some of the open issues here. For a full list, we try to keep track of everything that is still to do in GitHub. So if you have an issue with the document, then either go to the GitHub and open an issue yourself, or write to the mailing list or me directly, and I will open an issue so that we can keep track that we actually fixed all the issues that were raised. So what we still have to do, we should shift the sections a little bit. So basically just shifting around the paragraphs to help with the reading flow, to like really have that in order that helps readers go through the document. we have some wordsmithing with the section titles to do as well. And then there are some a little bit more major issues or major changes that we should discuss. So one thing is the removal of most of the discussions on protocol error. The problem that we have is that with Radius TLS and DTLS, we have a session, so we can't spin up a new ID space without at least a little bit of overhead. So we are bound by the 256 IDs that Radius has. So if a client sends a Radius packet that the server knows it cannot act on it, the ID is still occupied until the client times out the ID. So in the previous versions, we had protocol error as if you receive a packet and you can't act on it, send back a protocol error, which is a link local reply. So we don't synthesize a reject or any other negative response that would then get proxied, but instead we just say, hey, we received this packet, thank you for that, but I'm not going to do anything about it, so feel free to reuse this ID for another packet, and then it is the client's obligation to then act on it and choose whether or not the packet should be resent to another server, or the protocol error should then, or it should send an own protocol error to the originating Radius client if the client for the first part was also a proxy. Protocol error is a draft for right now, that we have a standard, an RFC describing it, but I think the RFC is also experimental. No? Okay. But the definition in the RFC of protocol error is for a very specific use case. So we have a draft with more use cases with a more detailed explanation. It is still in development, so it's not something that we can say you must implement protocol error and then reference to a work in progress document. So our current approach to this is to say on the client side, protocol error packages from the server must be accepted, and the clients must stop any retransmission of the original packet. So the ID is truly cleared up, and we recommend or we add a may, I think, so it's optional, not a recommendation, to send protocol error if you receive a packet that you can't handle as a RADEXT server. But we also say the details are out of scope for this document. See the protocol error document that is work in progress for more details. So hopefully once we have the protocol error document ready, that document can now state Radius servers, and then independent of RADSEC or Radius UDP must send a protocol error if they receive a Radius packet that they can't act upon. So that's one of the big changes. Other changes are that we will need look through the document and see if we can move all guidance that is really implementation specific to an implementation consideration section. I'm not exactly sure if we have enough implementation considerations throughout the document that it would require an own, or it would be helpful to have an own section, but that's something that we have to do. And then the last thing that didn't make it on the slides because we had this discussion yesterday, the current document defines a number of trust models. And one of these trust models is to have a fingerprint of a certificate configured. So instead of configuring the actual certificate or the public key of the certificate or a CA, you just configure in the case of the spec, the SHA-1 hash of the certificate. And then when the server or client sends its certificate, you then hash it, compare the hash of the certificate to the hash you configured. And if it matches, you trust the certificate. So first we have the issue that the current document says SHA-1. SHA-1 isn't state of the art anymore. Hasn't been for some time. The other thing is, do we even need this? This is a thing that I copied from 6614. So from the original radius TLS specification. But we weren't sure if anyone even implements it, if it adds a benefit to the protocol. I think the consensus among the people that I spoke to was we don't need this, because if we really want to do this, we can also configure the certificate itself as a trust anchor and use self-signed certificates. We don't need to use the hash. And in that case, maybe it's even worth looking at raw public key if we need that in the spec. I mean, both raw public key and X509 fingerprint are currently, I think, recommended trust models, so they're not mandatory to implement. But still, if it's not used and doesn't give any advantage, we can get rid of it and make the document even smaller and better to understand. So I think that's it. The slide clicker doesn't work anymore, but I don't think I have any more slides. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that was the last one.
Yeah.
So any comments, questions, discussion?
I put myself into the queue. Speaking, I think not as a chair, but as an individual, I have some concern over the protocol error documents, referencing the protocol error documents. As far as I understand, it would be a normative reference. And if it is a normative reference, then from process point of view, this draft cannot be published as a RFC until the protocol error document is published too. And in this case, it would delay the publication of this document for quite a long time, because protocol error draft is not yet adopted, and we should first recharter, then adopt it, then pass through working group last call, then wait for RFC editor. So from process
Valerie?
point of view, am I missing something?
Yeah, there's already a protocol error RFC.
Okay.
Ours is an update to it. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Because
I agree with you if that was the case, but we're going to reference the old
Yes.
one, which has the
Okay.
type and
Well,
everything. Yep.
we'll do
That resolves
both.
my concern.
Yeah.
So the protocol error packet type itself is already specified in an RFC, so we can reference that RFC.
Okay,
The
that's great.
details about how protocol error should be applied and what error causes and all that should be in there, and what radius endpoints should do if they receive protocol error and how they should behave. That's not defined, so we can add a reference, an informational reference to the draft with, if you want to know more about protocol error, look at this draft. But this will not keep us from pushing this
Yes,
document.
informational reference is okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Is there
Alan, you're
anyone?
I don't seem to.
Ah.
Were you, Heki, did you have something to say?
Okay. Yeah.
Just get up and talk. We'll pretend you're in the queue.
Now
Yeah,
worked.
fair enough. Does this work? So I think I know where this fingerprint verification comes from, and I think it may not have been used at all, and Radiator could do it as a part of a verification where you usually check that if the subject alt name matches whatever you think it matches. So there you could use certificate fingerprint, but it didn't replace, for example, checking the CA certification or anything like that. So that is just to sort of verify that. I'd say that it can go also and I think I know where it came from, and I think it may not be even meant to be used so as it's in 6614. So it was just an option in addition to, for example, checking the subject alt name in OpenSSL verify function that runs after certificate change check. So I think it can go.
Okay.
And also, do we need to put something more about raw public keys? I just thought about that. Are they well enough specified at the moment? Or do they need some kind of specification? Or
That
can we
is
just point
a
to something that it tells everything that we need?
Yeah, that is a very good question, because I think the 6614 spec referenced something, and I just copied that exact reference over to the Beast document. There may be some use cases where raw public key is useful, so we should think about if we can remove it. If we don't remove it because we think it's useful, we definitely need to look up everything if the specification of raw public keys is good enough, or if we need additional specification in our document. Haven't done that yet.
Yes, because I think 6614 doesn't have word raw in it, so it probably didn't come from there. And I think it's also a later RFC that defines raw public keys than what 6614 is. So it's something that became available after 6614 became an RFC. So a quick check.
Yeah, I'll check again. Yeah,
because it's not something I'd say that we would be removing, because I don't think that it existed in 6614 in the first place.
Yeah. Well, the advantage of raw public key is that you can use asymmetric cryptography without need of PKI. So it combines the advantages of PSK with the advantages of asymmetric cryptography. But it definitely we need to make sure that we are well aware of the consequences.
Yeah, I think it can stay if we just check if there's anything to check. So that's fine. But I think the fingerprint is something that could go.
I'm in the queue after Hecky. If it turns out that raw public keys was not in 6614, this isn't the place, I don't think, to add a new method. Like, we could write a separate document that we run as experimental, or that we make sure is implemented and stuff before we move it to standards track. I don't think we want to add new things. So we do need to figure out where it came from and whether it was included in 6614 at all, right?
So we can add an possibly experimental RFC that adds a new trust model to RADEXT. And
yeah, I mean, assuming the working group wanted to do that and somebody was willing to implement it and people thought they'd operate it and all the usual, but yeah. Myself out of the queue. Anybody else comments on this document? Because it's we're actually a little over time and we should be moving on to deprecating, Alan. So get ready. Looks like Valerie, are you in the queue?
No. I'm just waiting.
Okay.
To check the deck. Change the deck.
Alan, your floor.
Yes. The deprecation document, I think, is next. So let's see here. Get that working. This came out of some discussions this week that the deprecating insecure practices document has not really changed in a year. It would be nice to be able to publish it immediately after. Oh, that doesn't work. You have to wait until Valerie passes this slide. Okay, there we are.
So you have the control.
Thank you. So it'd be good to publish this immediately after TLS Biz. Yay, now we have TLS. Dear God, don't use UDP anymore. The comments, though, were that the draft was long. There's like 80 pages of actual content. And it's difficult to understand because it bounces back and forth between normative text and history and blah, blah, blah. So I spent some time this week splitting it into two. The idea would be there's one, which is a review of radius security, which is how did we get here? That would be informational. And then the actual deprecating insecure practices, which now flows a lot better and has all the standards updates in it. And if you want to know why it's recommending certain things, go read this other document. But it's just a list of you must do A, you must do B, you must not do C. And so that makes it a lot more clear to read. And then the hope would be to publish these documents and probably also the reverse COA one, which is waiting for TLS Biz, all in one chunk. And then do lots of updates. And that's it for this presentation. So they went out yesterday, I think. I don't think anyone's had time to read them, but overall, it seems to be a good idea to do that.
Comments, questions? Jan-Fred?
Hi, Jan-Fred. Maybe just a process question. Would you want to publish these documents in one cluster or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would, want to get probably another working group review or last call of the deprecation document. I think we had one and we sort of mostly agreed not to.
No, we haven't had a working group last call on it. We will do on the one that stayed the deprecation document, the one that actually tells you what to do. We'll do a working group last call on that soon. But we want to give the working group a chance to read the new documents first. The other one will have to be adopted as a working group work item and moved forward. And it would have to be, working group would have to want to do it and so forth, which we'll talk about in the rechartering section. But that's,
Paul.
Sorry, I'm fumbling with the queue.
Sure.
Well, just for the record. So Paul Wout is Security AD. Is it possible that the deprecation one will only have informative references to the other history document? Because
Yes.
then it won't actually hold up the deprecation, which is what we really don't want. Otherwise, it becomes a cluster automatically.
Yeah,
So I'd like
the
to
history
see-
will be an info document.
Okay, great. Because I want
And it discusses all these attacks and so forth, but it references real references for those things. It's not the definition of blast radius, for instance. It's just going to be an informative document.
I think
Okay, great.
for me, it makes a certain amount of sense to start off with something like TLS Biz. I mean, publish them all as a group, one after the other. TLS Biz, hey, we're doing the new radius. Maybe the history, here's why it's crap, and then deprecating or
But just
something like that. But
don't bundle when you don't need to. This is
Okay.
why we don't make it a cluster when it's an informative reference, because then documents just stall for months with no good
Okay.
reason.
Yeah.
well, if there isn't much comment then on the history one, we could hopefully push that one out quickly in advance of everything else.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see when the TLS BIS goes, but we certainly won't create a reference. We may just try to put it out right around the same time, right? The deprecation document is not required by TLS BIS. TLS BIS is required by it. So it can go after TLS BIS, but not before.
Yeah, the only reason to put them all out at the same time is they reference each other. I mean, the history one is, oh God, it's broken. Please look at this thing to see why or how to fix it, right? That's about it. Versus going, well, perhaps one day it will be fixed and 2 weeks later the other one comes out. That's really the only reason to have a cluster.
Well, and the reason for splitting them up is the deprecating document had become 87 pages long, 50 plus pages of which had nothing to do with what we were deprecating.
Yeah.
I mean, it was wise, but it wasn't really normative language.
I think that's it.
Yep, next up. Any other, I don't think there's any more comments on this, but if you are, well, no one's in the queue. So next is the Connect Info. Looks like Mark's online. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mara. Yep. Mark Grayson here. So I've never done the remote slides before, but yeah, so here is an update on Connect Info. Can I advance the slides, or how do I advance the slides?
You should have a button that says advance the slides.
Now I do. It's now. It's
You
now
have
changed.
control now.
Yeah, now it's changed format. Okay, cool. So the background for those who aren't following Connect Info, we presented draft 0.0 back in Dublin, and then we represented draft 1 in Bangkok. The first presentation covered background, motivations, alignment with existing implementations, and the proposed ABNF syntax. In Bangkok, we addressed the feedback that we received, as well as talking about implementations, I think across a fleet of 17,000 access points, and requested feedback on working group adoption. Now, importantly, the feedback that we took away from 122 was that we should progress by the independent submissions editor route. So we since revised the draft to put the flavor for the independent submissions, and we talked with the independent submissions editor. And then back in September, the RADEXT workgroup placed the draft in state of candidate for workgroup adoption. So that's just some of the background. In terms of what was the response, and I just captured, excuse me, sorry, I don't know what happened there. Move my slides again. Sorry, happy for someone else to drive, and I can just say next slide, if that helps, Valerie. But
so we want to be on, I think it's
okay.
there it is.
Yeah, there we go. So we got 10 feedbacks, I guess critically, including all of the co-authors, and all of the responses were supportive of that candidate for workgroup adoption. And I've just sort of tried to summarize some of the key comments there. Number one is from Alan about some of the recommendations of making it informational because it violates some of the 6158 prohibitions about complex data types. And in particular, the last one was we have the next slide in terms of the specifics around the encoding and what should go in the encoding. And so this is quite sort of thematic. And so this was, I don't have an issue with Connect Info, and having a standard attribute to convey this information is useful. However, metrics reflect current environmental conditions rather than the nature of the connection. So you imagine Connect Info is information about the connection, and we have somewhat overloaded the original syntax with stuff which relates to the connection, but others which are a little bit more generic. And just calling out, this is also being discussed on the host AP thread, because obviously one of the motivations is to get this capability into host APD, so then it's available for many implementations. And so a similar feedback on that particular thread, because we have non-station specific items like channel operating class, noise level, channel utilization, and backhaul link throughput latency. So this same commentary around the particular key value pairs that we put in Connect Info. So just calling out some commonalities there. And so this next slide tries to summarize, and recognizing that obviously RADEXT needs to re-charter, and this isn't within the current charter, but if we plan for workgroup adoption, it means that we need to ensure rough consensus versus, you know, a WBA specification going via the ICE route that would be just, you know, WBA's view. We want to be encompassing of all views in terms of what should go in Connect Info. So some observations. There seems to be rough consensus that, as this has been implemented and is in use, there is support for formalizing a Connect Info syntax with those appropriate health warnings that we've got complex data types, specifically because the original 2869 recommendation recommended a complex data type. There seems agreement that key value pairs can be classified into 802.11 connection specific, maybe 802.11 connection generic, and IP connection generic attributes. And also, you know, as we get close to the 253 octet limit, there seems to be agreement that a single radius attribute can't convey all the key value pairs, and hence a key workgroup task, if adopted, is to define what is in Connect Info versus another radius attribute. So I think there's a sort of general agreement on those aspects. So one of the complications we have is when we look at the historical, and this is back to one of the comments we had, the historical use of Connect Info includes connection speeds, includes Wi-Fi amendment, includes Wi-Fi channel, which are those generic attributes. And so we can look at the connection specific ones, which are, you know, RSSI, TXRX bitrate, frame loss, frame retry, and saying, well, those look to be very suitable, and I don't think there's any disagreement that those are connection informations. But we have the legacy issue around. We want to be, I guess, encompassing of legacy implementations as well. We don't want to immediately make those legacy implementations not compliant to a particular ABNF syntax. And so the issue is how do we deal with legacy versus a split of connection info and sort of connection generic information. So I guess moving forward, and then once again, assuming, you know, RADEXT charters and we're successful in getting this working group adopted, is number one, we need to agree a set of per station key value pairs that go in Connect Info, but clearly as part of that is what do we do about legacy signaling, speed, amendment, and channel. And maybe we just call this out in the draft as saying that this is the legacy section dealing with legacy implementations. And then that leaves the question as well, what about the station agnostic key value pairs? Does that mean that we need to plan for a second RADEXT informational RFC defining those attributes? And a question we have in particular as the set of people, you know, implementing this, does that necessitate using a vendor-specific attribute space for this? And then would that be, I guess, the recommendations from RADEXT in terms of how to move forward? So we've got some key questions. And so, you know, as ever, appreciating feedback from this particular audience. Thank you.
So I'm first in the queue. First, I wanted to apologize for the flip-flopping. I mean, at the time that we suggested going to the independent stream editor, we thought that was going to be the easiest path. And we learned some stuff, and I'm sorry you had to go through the flip-flopping. But we are now working on the rechartering, which we'll talk about later. And this is one of the things that we're going to talk about, including in the upcoming charter change. And as everyone on the working group knows, we sort of pre-working group adoption called a few of these because they have been around for a while, and we just haven't had the charter we can put them under yet. But what is the hoped for status of this document? Are you hoping it will be informational, the one that's out now?
Yes. So I think we're following Alan's recommendations because, in particular, around the complex data types, it would be informational.
Okay. Any other comments, thoughts, feedback? I'm not seeing anyone on this end, and I don't see anyone in the queue except for me. I fixed that. And so I don't think we have any other feedback right now. We will talk a little bit later about getting these in the charter. And then once they're in the charter, we can confirm on the list and then adopt them, hopefully, pretty quickly.
Very good. And I think I am next.
Yes.
Okay, let me.
The uncertainty one.
Yes. So yeah, carrying location objects with uncertainty. This is a new draft by myself and Sri. Some background. 15 years after publication of 5580, it's been increasingly adopted by Wi-Fi systems. I think this group received a liaison from WBA back in 2023, introducing their paper of signaling location information in radius. We talked about open roaming previously. Open roaming mandates 5580 support. So some of the issues we see is since 2009, the referenced 3825, which is used by 5580, that the 3825 definition of geospatial object has been obsoleted by 6225. And 6225 enhances the original option 123 that still persists. So they've taken option 123 from 3825 into 6225. But they also have defined a new option 144, which enables location uncertainty to be signaled. Then I guess the other observation is regulators are defining requirements for signaling location together with uncertainty for use cases, and in particular related to emergency calling. As an example, the European Emergency Number Association recommends that to help location consumers understand how to interpret a particular position, it should always be delivered with an uncertainty factor and a confidence factor. And so the key is that we didn't get that with 3825, but we do get that with 6225. And so just to show what that looks like, so on the on the left here, we've got the original 3825 when we've got latitude resolution used, and then latitude and longitude resolution, altitude resolution. In 6225, there's a new option, and that's renamed uncertainty. And so there was ambiguity about whether resolution was uncertainty, and that's clarified in option 144 when we encode uncertainties. And then as it relates to confidence, this is included in 7549 that calls out, because we don't have a separate level of confidence in 6225, that we should assume a default confidence of 95% should be assumed for the combinations of uncertainty in 6225. So 6225 enables you to signal uncertainty, and using 7549, we assume the confidence associated with that uncertainty is 95%. So clearly, we've made I guess significant enhancements since 2009. And so, what is the proposal? The proposal is to define a new location profile type. And so, in 5580, just reminding ourselves that there is a type 0 today, which is 4776 civic location type. There's a type 1, which is our 3825 geospatial location type. The proposal is to add in a new type 2, which is then a geospatial location profile with encoding based on 6225. Contents based on the geoloc option with uncertainty at a 95% confidence level following 7549. And so that's a very short draft, but gives you some of the rationale, some of the background, and hopefully quite a small change to 5580 to enable these new uncertainty and confidence values to be signaled. Thank you.
Any comments, questions? Not seeing anyone here in the queue, so thank you, Mark. And pretty much this is that same situation where we're wait on the rechartering discussion. The next up was Shri. Is Shri somewhere?
So Shri may be on his way to the airport, so I think I can send in for Shri if he's not in the room.
We can just postpone his presentation a little bit because he wrote a message said he can be late. If he appears, he will be presenting. If he doesn't,
if he doesn't, I'm happy to do it later, Valerie. Okay.
Okay, is it okay?
Excellent.
Okay,
We'll move on to proxy load balancing.
Yes, just a moment.
Shri's document, in case we don't get to it, is another one that's in that list from the WBA and is waiting on the rechartering. So.
Okay. Wait.
Click your must look.
Yep. So this is a document that came out partly as a result of feedback from various people in the Radius conference in March. It's intended to be informational because it's weird and horrible, and probably not something you want to standardize, but may actually be useful in practice. So you have a problem when you're proxying to multiple home servers with EAP. At some point, one of the home servers may fail, and if you're doing load balancing, suddenly you have whatever 1,000 outstanding EAP sessions, which get load balanced to the other home servers who have no idea what you're talking about. And so the answer here is various horrible magic, which I will get into in a bit. The other one is a bit of DOS protection. So if you have a system where something goes wrong, as some EduRoam has seen, and you have someone just hammering you with packets, there is a way to block those without any protocol changes. I will say, as I posted to the list, there is IPR here. I will file a IPR statement shortly. The server affinity one is you give each home server a unique 8-bit identifier because this is Radius and you're never going to have more than 256 home servers. And then you mangle the state attribute to and from the home server. And this only works on the last hop, but it's still useful. And it means that the proxy does not need to maintain state, but it can associate a ID with each home server. And if it knows that home server 3 is down, it doesn't have to send packets to that home server. And this is just on the interest of reducing the load on everyone, especially in the case where we have failover. Rate limiting is basically a radius aware negative cache. If you see too many rejects in a short period of time, that's bad. So nobody should be trying over and over and over again within a couple of seconds. If I rejected you, I'm not going to accept you 3 seconds later. And what happens then is if you keep trying, so if you get rejected a couple times in quick succession, it starts blocking you. And so long as you keep asking to get authenticated at a high rate, it will continue to be blocked. And the hope there is you deploy this on a proxy, and that lowers any kind of bad DOS traffic, whatever, that gets sent across a proxy chain. There have been a lot of discussions this week about the congestion control document that may or may not require changes to the protocol. This one does not, and they may be similar slash different slash overlapping solutions. This has been shown to block bad traffic with high confidence, doesn't block good traffic. If you're being polite, you're not going to get rejected 10 times a second. And its blocking is only done for a small window, and the load on the proxy is very tiny, and the amount of state the proxy has to store is very tiny. It's basically who is currently being abusive, and that's it. You could extend this. One of the cases that some roaming operators are seeing is you are authentic but not authorized on the network. Given 802.1x, there's no way to tell them this, so you just reject, and the supplicant goes, but my credentials are okay, and it keeps trying. So you could do something similar for this. For authentic users, you'd have to extend the window a little bit, and it probably would help. And the goal again is to lower the load on the proxy fabric of traffic that you know is bad. And that's it. And this probably should be informational, maybe experimental, but definitely not standards track. And probably aren't many comments about this because this is crazy and weird and a complicated document.
Is there?
Mark.
So are there any?
Yeah, Alan, just in terms of the peer behavior, do we need to be, do we need to improve recommendations in terms of peer behavior? I don't know if we have any at all in terms of how they respond to a reject.
This is a pathological situation.
Yeah.
I mean, we are trying to improve in the TLS spec the wording around the fact that back off must be exponential and so forth. But these are deployed supplicants. As we've only narrowed it down so far to one vendor, but I don't feel comfortable saying in the middle of this meeting who it is. We're working with them on it. But this is a case where if they send a request with, say, that the user has typed Harvard, edu instead of Harvard.edu, that they will get a rejection from the first proxy and they will send again immediately. We will get over 10,000 a second requests from these things a minute. I mean, 10,000 a minute requests from these things because they have a pathological problem. And so it's really about how to defend against a known pathological problem in widely deployed implementations more than it is about the specification being bad. I mean, everyone has known you're supposed to back off exponentially on everything since requirements for Internet host came out in like 1989. But the fact is there's a lot of deployed equipment that just doesn't do it in this case.
Yeah, I mean, this is really an IEEE thing, right? Because the supplicant retrying is done at the Ethernet layer, and that kind of, hammer until I get in is just pathological, and there's no reason for anyone to do it. I haven't checked the 802.1x specs, but I wouldn't be surprised if this behavior was explicitly forbidden because it's ridiculous.
And maybe just responding to Margaret, we can solve it with a proxy, but that's only assuming a proxy exists. And so obviously if a proxy exists, we can do remediation of the proxy, but there are instances where there is no proxy.
Yeah.
And I mean, but it's not that these vendors, I mean, we've never had a spec that, I mean, there's been something that said we're supposed to exponentially back off, or the 5580, it's not exponential, but it doubles. It goes between, and but it has a increasing back off, and that's been out for some time. People just didn't implement it, and so we're talking about dealing both on. There's two situations. One is there's a lot of equipment out there that does this wrong right now, and the other is it's a fairly easy DOS attack if you allow one piece of equipment to just send you an unlimited number of requests, because we need to do a little crypto and other stuff when we get each request. And this is a pretty trivial DOS attack on EduRoam is what I know about, but it probably would be the case that they could do this with open roaming as well, or probably with a corporate network. But we don't,
Great.
We don't have the proxy there. The corporate network would have to have their own rate limiting mechanism.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and specifically for the non-proxy case, based on discussions earlier this week, sitting around the hotel, the deprecating insecure practices document will probably need to be updated to address things like rate limiting, et cetera, as part of best practices recommendations. Hecky.
Heikki Votiainen, I was just thinking that the main implementations, I guess, are Apple, Android, and Microsoft.
Yeah.
So wouldn't there be a way to tell them to fix the e-peers? Because if we just keep adding functionality to work around the problems themselves don't go away. But knowing the cycle of a cell phone is going to be has lifetime of a couple of years, and it gets software updates, so it might help fairly quickly.
We have talks underway with the vendor to try to fix it, but it doesn't take away the possibility that you could intentionally attack this way.
Yeah.
But I think there are the it doesn't, but still it would help at least.
It's and we do have relationships with the vendors and push them, but I mean, to be perfectly frank, there's nothing stopping anyone today from downloading WP Supplicant and sending 10,000 packets a second anywhere worldwide, and eduroam would go down.
Yeah, and also there was you mentioned the case where someone can get authenticated, but they must not be allowed to be authorized in the network, for example, if they are under 18 or whatever the reason might be. So that sounds like a little bit of different problem, but I think, is this the only way to solve it? Nothing to sort of tell them back that you're basically okay, but you are not allowed in this particular network.
Yeah. So the congestion control document that Janfred started would be a better way of doing that, but that would require protocol changes.
Yeah.
Well, that also maybe kind of has to happen at the EAP layer in cases where EAP is in use. So.
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to have a signal back to the supplicant going, yeah, I know I'm sending failure, but please don't try again in this location for an hour. Right. And that is completely impossible right now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think
okay. And then protocol errors up.
Yeah.
Next.
And then protocol error. So this document is intended to standardize protocol error, which is defined in 7930 as experimental. There is enough information in there to implement protocol error correctly, but 7930 just says protocol error and doesn't really describe what that means or how to use it. So during the hackathon, we talked about protocol error, we implemented it, and then the problem here is that Radius requires you to discard well-formed authentic packets from known sources, which is bad. Really, you want a signal going, yes, I know I got your packet. I don't know what to do with it. Either please go away or send it somewhere else. The result is the clients have no positive signal that the packet has been received. So is it the next hop that's down? Did the next hop proxy it? And then that next hop after that is down. Is it slow? We don't know. So you make guesses, and guesses don't work in an international proxy framework. And then you have many more outstanding packets because we have an 8-bit ID space because we're still in 1993. So the protocol error is a link layer signal saying, I received your packet, but I don't know what the heck to do with it. Please do something else. So we have FreeRadius and RADSec proxy are at least somewhat interoperable. Radiator's working on it. Cisco has said they'll be working on it. During the hackathon, we found some corner cases I have a long list of things which need to be updated in the draft, just explaining what to do and what it means. And the result should be that it will be much more useful. And it says will be discussed later this week at RADEXT, because this is what I presented at the hackathon. So that's good. So yeah, that is fixing a protocol design flaw that's more than 30 years old at this point. Yay.
So comments, questions?
Yeah. Oh, and this was, I'll ignore that one. There's a comment about quick from hackathon. Okay, questions? Protocol error? Everyone's wildly in favor of it. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's it.
All right. And then next up is the radius over quick.
Yes.
I'm sorry if I'm saying this name wrong. Shangan, are you here somewhere?
Hi.
Shannon, you have slide control.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Shannon from Mobile, and I will present radius over quick. So we presented it last IETF and received the value feedback, and we updated the draft a bit accordingly. And basically, there are 3 points. The first is we clarify ambiguous descriptions based on the feedback and add a use case using the multiple quick stream and add some operation descriptions. For update 1 in the why does the radius protocol need quick part, the quick support multiple streams to carry radius data concurrently, which can aggravate the congestion problem of large-scale messages such as authentication, and quick provides a faster handshake to reduce the connection established time. And the radius network mobility between clients such as NAS and the server, allowing the client to change network without disturbing the authentication session. This happens such as there is some strong with the main server and it's switched to the backup server. And we know the TCP is used as a transport protocol only when for radius when transport layer such as TLS or IPsec provides confidentiality and security, and the quick provides the transport security with built-in encryption and authentication. So the built-in encryption of quick can simplify the security related configuration. So the quick can be used as an optional transport protocol for radius. We also add a multiple stream use case, and radius include the authentication, according, and the authorization. And as in the figure, the 3 bi-directional streams can be carried. The 3 transactions and stream 0 is used for authentication, and the stream 1 for according, and stream 2 for authentication. And also the array transaction can have the multiple streams, and this was the distribute for each transaction, and what's the congestion. influence each other. And we also refine the optional considerations. And first, configuration should options should be provided to enable the use of multiple streams, and the number of streams also should be configurable. And for the packet formats, the radius will quick maintain the existing radius specification, and the only modification for this mainly affect the transmission and reception component, that is under quick. And the port, the radius over quick use a single ANA assigned UDP port for all functions, and the source ports can be freely selected. And the current MIB mechanism information base only support UDP transport, and they lack the capabilities to track the quick features like multiple streaming. So new MIB specification will be needed. Detecting live servers. So the radius proxy only perceive the status of the direct proxy and not the backend server. So if a request is responsive, we can't know where the wrong is. So when using the radius over quick, the radius server should only be declared responsive when all existing quick connections have terminated, and no new connection can be established using remain connection ID. And the radius over quick permits the clients to forcibly close the connection or mark the server down. And for the malformed packet handling, the radius over quick must immediately terminate the affected quick stream upon meeting serious closure conditions, and may optionally close the entire quick connection. And the radius over quick can also apply the slight discard behavior in some exceptional cases, and the implementation may terminate just a faulty stream or the entire quick connection. Will maintain security and the isolating the stream failures to perceive other transactions. And restricted by the 1 octet radius ID, the each quick connection only have 256 concurrent in-flight transactions in radius over quick. And if we want more transactions, we should create additional quick connections. But however, the quick has the lower overhead, makes the multiple connection more viable than with TCP. And for EAP session, and the radius over quick client should use a quick stream per EAP session to preserve ordering and isolation, and the EAP level transmission never cause radius packet retransmissions over the same quick stream, and the quick automatically handles the transport layer retransmission need, and use the alternate streams or connections if the original fails. And any reviews and feedbacks are welcome. Thank you.
Right, and we spoke before this meeting, and we're not going to call for working group adoption now because it's not in our charter. So we'll talk about that in the charter discussion. So I'm going to say thank you for bringing this draft forward, because it actually sparked a lot of discussion this week among people who are here. I wish you could have been here to have it with us. So there's been now quite a bit of discussion around this draft. So thank you for bringing it forward. We'll let people comment if they want to, but we're also going to discuss at the end of the chartering discussion what we want to do around this topic. So any comments or feedback, questions? I think Heiki's coming up.
Yeah, hello, Heikki Vatinen. Just a quick question. Do you have a implementation of prototype that does radius over quick?
No, we haven't have the implementations yet. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Janfra, you coming up? Oh, Fabian's next. Yeah. Fabian, you're next. I misread it.
Right. So Fabian Marco speaking, maintainer of FlatSec proxy. My first question would be, are you following the discussions around 6614 bis / TLS bis?
He's asking, are you following the radius TLS BIS document, the one Jan-Fred presented first today?
I think TLS is part of Quick, and Quick may use the different type of TLS. So
the point is, I think it's more advice than a question, which is that the working group is doing considerable work to rewrite 6614, and we made a lot of changes that would apply to your document. Your document started clearly with 6614 as a base, and you would do well to read the radius TLS BIS draft because there's a lot of updates in there that would apply to running radius over both protocols, over both TLS or and Quick.
okay, we will follow that after the meeting, and we reference the part of them, and we reference the radius over TCP many places.
Yeah. So my recommendation would be to take, when TLS BIS is released as an RFC, take that as a basis, because it already fixes a lot of issues with 6614. So basing it on 6614 is simply wrong. The one statement, even in the introduction, that Quick is more secure than TLS, to me is simply wrong. It's exactly the same. Then we had a lot of...
We didn't say that. But I think yes, you said the TLS has the same security as the Quick. Yeah.
Yes. So Then at the hackathon, we had a lot of discussions about how could we make use of the quick channels to fix issues. And the way you currently describe using quick channels in the draft basically does not solve any issues. So by just separating authentication and accounting doesn't fix anything. The head of line blocking happens with multiple authentications on the same channel. So kind of that doesn't fix really anything. We need to discuss that really in depth with a quick expert. The next point is you're basically silent about peer authentication. And since Radius UDP uses just the shared secret as sort of authentication, not really, we really need something more. And there again, TLS-BIS describes peer authentication in detail.
Okay, thank you. We will refine that and think about it carefully. Thank you.
And my last comment.
I think that was just a
Just an
background
echo.
noise.
Okay. My last comment is more to the whole working group about the management specification, the MIP. I'm personally a fan of SNMP, old style, but listening to all the rest of IETF, it seems SNMP is dead. Go Yang. Might like that or not, but if we consider anything in that regard, we might to have a look what the rest of IETF is doing.
Jan-Fred?
Yes, Jan-Fred. So speaking as the primary author of the TLS-BIS document, I think a lot of missteps that we did with 6614 or that the previous working group did with 6614 that we are now fixing should definitely apply. So a +1 to read the TLS-BIS document or the RADEXT document and apply the changes from 6614 that we did there. And also to add to what Fabian already suggested, I think, and what we also talked about in the hackathon and with the groups in the group that is here on site, I think especially with Quick, because it has the potential to really improve the issues and to fix issues that we have. But I think it is very important that we first implement a Radius over Quick client and server and test it out before we write the specification, because there are a lot of things that we can do wrong and that could actually cause us more problems if we do that wrong. So I think implementing it first, looking at the implementation and see where that fails, is a good approach to defining Radius over Quick, to see if it has any merit, if it is a better approach, and then start writing the spec based on the implementation. Because I think the draft as it currently is has too many issues that it can be fixed by changing the draft so that it would be ready for working group adoption. I think it needs to be completely rewritten. So I think the approach itself is very worth looking into, as we have heard here. So thank you for introducing the thought of Radius over Quick, but unfortunately, I don't think this draft is destined for working group adoption until it has a major overhaul.
Yes, thank you. We will refine the a draft based on the 6614, and we will find some way to achieve the suggestions, but maybe a little different to implement the reducible quick now. Yeah.
And then I have a couple of additional comments. One is in response to Fabian's comment on the MIB versus Yang. I don't disagree with what he said, except that Radius right now has a MIB and no Yang module. So we're not going to write a little extension to a Yang module when we don't have a Yang module to extend. So we can extend the MIB or we cannot extend the MIB. The working group would have to write a Radius Yang module before it could be extended. But I think a couple things that came out of the discussion this week that you should think about. If you read the DLS BIS doc, you'll see some treatment about the fact that UDP has some difficulties for us around UDP fragmentation. This is a huge operational difficulty in roaming deployments where we're going across the internet, have MTU issues, and therefore end up doing UDP fragmentation. We often require that middle boxes at the home server sites be configured to make an exception to allow UDP fragmentation for port 1812. And this is a big issue in the real world. Okay. The TLS document, that the TLS running over TCP has a potential problem, at least, with head of line blocking because we've got multiple sessions running over the same TCP connection. And so if one session's packet gets lost, the other sessions all have to wait for the retransmission to happen for that session so that the further messages could get through, even though there's no inherent reason why they're blocked on that one message, except that that's the nature of TCP. And we think we have preliminary conversations with some of the Quick people that Quick could resolve this issue. But the way you would do it, I'll just give you a hint because people are like not telling you the secret, which is you need to put every Radius request in a separate Quick thread. So think about that and see if you think that applies. And that would take away head of line blocking. The fact that it goes over Quick takes out the UDP fragmentation issues. And that could potentially be a big win. Now, this is all very theoretical because without implementations and without people who are saying they're going to deploy it, an RFC is not worth anything. So when we talk in the later thing, we're going to talk about whether we have any of that going on, and it may be very premature to talk about chartering this. We'll discuss that in the charter discussion.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe to extend, so Jan-Fred again, maybe to extend Margaret's comment just a little bit. Also, it's worth looking into when to open channels, when to close channels. If the channels, because we had Colin Jennings, I think, as a Quick expert in our hackathon, at our hackathon table at one point. And I think one of the things also worth looking into is what type of channel you should use if we might have fragmentation issues again or not. So it's the idea that we came up with would be reliable channels that handle retransmission themselves, one Radius round trip, so request and response per channel, and once that is done, you close the channel. Just to have the thoughts that we had in the hackathon on record.
There's a little more to that too, which is instead of inside the implementations, instead of the 1 through 255 or 0 through 255 ID, you could then refer to those packets using the channel identifier. And that would take away a lot of stuff right now where we have to count. And when we get to 256, we need a new TCP connection. We can get a new quick connection without needing to redo the crypto that we have to redo to get a new TLS connection. So this could also solve that problem. There's a lot of promising stuff here, but it's very preliminary because a lot of this is theoretical without an actual implementation that demonstrates these properties. But it's promising. I mean, don't walk away from this feeling all sad, because there was actually a lot of promising discussion here.
Hi, Alex Kluter. Definitely +1 and whatever else you wanted to call it, for showing up an implementation side by side with what we might consider best of class at the moment, with like multiple TCP channels or DTLS or some way to control fragmentation, and check them side by side, both for whether it's performance and efficiency, but also ease of administration. Maybe with Quick, there's some advantages where you can just light it up and forget about it without tuning. Who knows? But this sort of has to be mapped out. I think my only concern about the head of line blocking and the magic waving wand is because this is all over a single UDP flow, you still have to have multiple separate Quick connections, I think. Because on your route from A to B, you might have a single link that's dropping 30% packets or 10% packets. So you're still going to have problems. And unless you have a separate path to your destination, you're still going to have these problems. Whilst if you're shunting still all your channels down that same path, they're all going to be hit. But this will turn up in an actual implementation. We don't know. This is hand waving territory. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, is there anyone else?
Interesting discussion, but I suggest to bring it to the list, because it seems to be a lot of issues and a lot of options of using Quick. So the discussion can take a very long time. So I just suggest to move on.
Yeah, we're gonna. Unless have we got Shri? Are we trying to fit Shri here?
I cannot see him, but perhaps Mark can.
Yes, I discussed with Shri that I'm happy to present for Shri with co-authors. So.
All right. Can you try to do the 3-minute version, because we do.
Yes. No. Absolutely, Margaret. I was going to do the 3-minute version.
Excellent.
Okay. EPCS as the deck is being shared. So this is radius attributes for national security and emergency preparedness. So very quickly, the overview as we presented last time, they're defining new attributes to allow the EPCS service to be supported in an end-to-end architecture. This includes an access network indicating that it is EPCS capable, and for a radius server in an access accept to indicate that a user is authorized to access using EPCS. So 3 attributes are defined: EPCS capable, indication, regulatory info, and subscription info. No change there. This is no change from I guess previously in terms of the flows. We need to exchange information in terms of the access point, if it's or this between the station and the access point, about whether they are EPCS capable. That is part of the default Wi-Fi 7 certification. So we're going to get lots of devices which are EPCS capable. And then obviously we're now doing the wraparound to be able to deliver that end-to-end architecture for supporting EPCS, including interfacing to an IDP who is already integrated into a federal authorizing agent framework. We're assuming we're going to reuse that. That's how EPCS is authorized today. We're looking to reuse those interfaces and mirror the EPCS authorization, which today is in a cellular HSS, into a Radius AAA for Wi-Fi users. Only 2 changes since we last presented, and these were addressing comments by RADEXT. One, we switched all integers to uint 32, so 4 octet aligned. And the other issue that we had from this group was we'd focused on regulatory divisions which were based on country codes, and the feedback from this group was, well, it may well be that the regulatory divisions are based on subdivisions. And so we adapted the spec, updated the spec to include subdivisions, which is CA type 1 in a 5580 location. So those are the only two changes, which I guess represent feedback that we received previously. And I guess that's all, Margaret. Hopefully that's your 3 minutes. But yeah,
Perfect
we've
timing.
addressed all questions. Any questions
Yep.
from this group?
Comments, suggestions? Not seeing anything in the room or on the screen. So thank you for that. That's one of the things we're going to be discussing in the rechartering as well. So so I guess I'll get up, and I think I need to do it from there to meet the requirements, right? So being much shorter than the other people who talked. All right, well, we wanted to talk here about rechartering effort that people know that we've been having, it's been discussed on the list. But just to make sure people know what we're talking about putting in the charter. Okay, we're not going to wordsmith the charter text here. That's Valerie and mine and Paul's job, and Alan is our official advisor. But to make sure people agree on the basic contents, that's what we're aiming for. So, oh, I get to do the slide. Push this button? No, this button? Yes, look at that. So there are 3 documents that are in our current charter. They're currently working group work items. We plan to finish them. The rechartering is not dropping any of these on the floor. Hopefully RADSEC is very close to finished. Jan Fred has said he can get us a new version around the beginning of December. I think he said that will include everything, all the feedback he has so far. And hopefully what will happen at that point is that we will send it back out for a working group, another working group, last call, just to check, maybe only a week long this time. And I'll check my Shepherd review stuff in parallel. And assuming everything actually merged correctly and is addressed, we may be able to hopefully get something to Paul before the end of the year. So that's the current timeline. If Paul's going to get up and say something.
Paul Wouters. I love your optimism, but December is not known for doing things fast. So if you're doing a working group last call in December, you might as well just let it go to January.
Well, I mean, if we can do it right at the beginning of December, we might be okay. But we'll see. There may be feedback, and then of course the fixing it might fall into January. If we get well into January and we haven't, and we don't believe that we are, a comma and a one comment close to sending it to you, we'll probably plan an interim meeting to try to get it to you before the March meeting.
Great. That would be great.
But I'm hoping we don't have to do that. I'm hoping we're closer than that, not just in time, but in amount of work left to do. So we have the deprecating insecure practices document, as discussed. We have a status server and loop detection document, which has been sort of waiting behind these, but really needs to start to spin up if we're going to move that forward. But all of those are in our charter now. They'll presumably stay in our charter and in our documents list until they're published. The WBA sent a list of requested documents. There's a set of them that we discussed today, and there's a few others that are obviously RADEXT work. They're here. The ones we discussed today, plus draft a cock proxy BCP, draft Janfred, RADEXT radius congestion, and draft Gondavali RADEXT 5G auth. Obvious they're radius attributes and specific radius stuff that would definitely be something this working group would be the one to work on if a working group is going to work on them at all. And we want to make it clear in our draft because we would have liked to be able to just take some of these right away. And that we'd like to make it clear that if people need a new radius attribute or need to extend a radius attribute or something, we're the place to bring it so that we could adopt a draft just by adding a milestone for it rather than having to recharter. But these ones would get some milestones very quickly, hopefully.
So, Paul Wouters, Security AD. So I agree with everything you said, but it made me wonder, does RADEXT have registries that might might be relaxed from RFC required to specification required, so that you don't necessarily have to go through all the RFC loops for getting a code point?
Well, one of the things on my to-do list is to review what our current IANA, they're all over the place in the documents, so this is not trivial. But I think, yes, I think you're probably right. Some things could be relaxed, and we could write a new IANA document that changes the category of some of these things, because it may not be the case that we need.
So it would still make the IETF the place to come if they need the registration points, but maybe they can skip RADEXT for the simple things.
Right. But should they need one, like the changes to the geo draft, for instance, are not something that's going to be just sort of, have IANA do it. I think we just want to make it clear that they come here and we can make a milestone for a new attribute or change to an attribute without recharge.
Right. And of course, there would always be like a designated expert that would check all of these things if it doesn't involve the entire full working group.
Right, and Alan and I have that privilege for certain things, and it may be that we want to extend the set of things that fall into that IANA category.
Yeah, my only concern here is without expert review, et cetera, is some of the attribute or protocol designs could be horrific. There have been RFCs published, for example, which violate 6158. And these are RFCs from other working groups in the IETF. And the radius experience outside of that is even less.
But we can look at that, Paul. But I think we still want our draft to say, if you want a radius attribute, we're the people to talk to.
Right, and again, there will be designated experts on all of these registries that will verify things. So the thing that had happened recently, where something went through and didn't really contact the designated experts for radius, was an error that we're hoping to never happen again.
Oh, wait. So is there any disagreement that putting these as milestones in our charter and being in charge of these things makes sense for RADEXT? I didn't think so, but just thought I ought to be open to the possibility. There are other documents that were directed at RADEXT that we think are pretty clearly in context for what RADEXT does, and it's a matter of having them in our charter and having milestones for them. One of them is the review of radius security and privacy, which is stuff we already accepted as a working group document, but we took it out of that document and put it over here. And we'll have to accept it again formally, but there shouldn't be a lot of controversy over it since we accepted it once. And the proxy load balancing is pretty clearly a radius protocol. If we're going to do it at all, it's going to be done here. We'd have to go through a working group acceptance process. Anybody have concerns over the idea that these are RADEXT things? I can't see if anybody's online, so I'm assuming Valerie will crop up if somebody is. But so then there is items to discuss further, and we could discuss these items for a very long time potentially. I want to try to scope this discussion to, are these things that the RADEXT working group wants to work on starting very soon? Because then they might be in this charter update. Of course, things could be chartered later if we think we're not ready to start on them now. Not chartering them now doesn't mean we never work on them. It means we don't commit to work on them starting. I mean, we're hoping to get this charter out in the next, let's say, couple months, but I hope it's a couple of weeks. I don't want to commit Paul for December after he.
Usually when chartering takes longer than say 4 weeks, it's because the AD forgot to press a button. So feel free to harass me. The chartering could be done fairly quickly. Not a problem there. Looking at the list there, looking at the drafts from the previous slide, I would hope that Radius over Quick has a very low priority, because you're just adding a whole bunch of things to your queue just now. And Radius over Quick is not the thing we need tomorrow. It's the things that the other organizations want us to do that we need tomorrow.
Right. And some of them, we've been not servicing them very well because of our need to focus on TLS BIS, which I'm not sorry for the focus on TLS BIS, but I do think we need to move those along. It's not fair to just keep them waiting.
Yeah, this is Alan. For a lot of the documents which come from outside the IETF, they're either very straightforward or whatever else. Like the emergency attributes is really defining a dictionary. I would hope that we would be able to adopt them, rubber stamp them, have a working group last call and push them out with minimal effort. And that way we could be extremely productive for a short period of time.
Yeah, I object to the term rubber stamp, but I'm not sure that what I would actually do is that far from that. I mean, they will have to be reviewed by the working group.
Yes.
They will have to be a consensus document of the working group. They will have to be shepherded appropriately. But yes, if rubber stamping can be like a 6 to 8 week process that involves all those steps, then I'm for it.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything really controversial in them. And they, from my reading at least, they seem to be fairly clear and straightforward. So I'm optimistic.
They're also in very good shape. The first one here, these are two very different cases. The first one here is a document that Mark Grayson, who was talking earlier, has provided. I think there's several authors, but he was the primary one. This document is a problem statement for kind of combining roaming and mobility. And it is a potentially big and complex topic. I am not sure RADEXT is the right place to do that. And I think we should work with you, Paul, to figure out, are we or are we not? If not, where are we going to send them? Presumably there's somebody looking at this liaison statement, which has one other document in it that was clearly not RADEXT, the last one, and is thinking about where these things are going. There are 9 things. 7 of them are RADEXT. One of them is not RADEXT. The other one is this, and we need to figure out what to do with it. And I only read it yesterday. So I mean, I haven't formed an opinion where it should go yet, but we should talk about it. And I wondered if anybody here has anyone here read it? So I don't know, please read it. And if you have any thoughts about where it should be and so forth, we can talk amongst ourselves, talk on the list, whatever. I don't even have a well-informed opinion about whether the IETF should do this work yet. I read the document for the first time yesterday. So I'm not ready to put it on our charter. Radius over Quick, we talked about that in the just previous session. The working group needs to decide if the working group wants to do Radius over Quick, separate from whether or not we want the current document to become a working group document. And it needs to decide it before, like if we're going to do Radius over Quick, it should be because we think we want to do Radius over Quick. And then we need to figure out what document we're going to use. There are some benefits to Radius over Quick that we talked about. But if there is some demand from some operators or users, people who run open roaming, people who run edge roam, people who run ISPs for Radius over Quick, I have yet to hear of it. So we'd love to hear if there's some people who are saying, we want Radius over Quick, we would deploy it if it existed. All right. We also don't have any implementer who is committed to implementing it. So if you are, I would love to hear about it. It would be even better to say, I implemented it. In addition to, we talked about talking to Colin Jennings. We also talked to David Skenazy. We talked to Lucas, whose last name I don't remember. Multiple, you talked to someone else. We talked to multiple Quick people, and their consensus seems to be that given that there's free Radius and given that there's publicly available Quick libraries, that, for somebody who gets this is a weekend-long project to implement this, and no one has. So no one wants it enough to have spent a weekend implementing it, all right? It's not ready to go on a working group charter. So if you think you want it on the charter, implement it, find people who have problems, who would deploy this if it existed. Because without those things, an RFC is just a waste of disk space.
Just a queue.
Okay, so comments. I can't see the queue. Why can't I? Well,
Oh, I guess it's me first, Margaret.
Okay.
Yeah, just in terms of the DMM. So why didn't we bring it to RADEXT? Because it's a problem statement which talks about generic technology, including radius, RADSEC, but also the cellular versions, you know, S6A over diameter, N32 over HTTP2. So we brought it to DMM. The feedback from DMM was we needed to do some extra work. Talking to and our question was for DMM, is this in scope of DMM? The feedback seemed to be, well, perhaps the chairs think it could be, and therefore at least we're looking to do a revision 1 addressing the comments received from DMM. But the discussions in DMM was, well, maybe the problem statements DMM, but maybe the specific solving the problems then come to RADEXT. So that's, I guess, maybe how we can split this particular work. Define the problem elsewhere because it's more generic, talking about different technologies, but in terms of how we look to address the solutions, that would maybe come to RADEXT. Thank you.
Let me start by saying I absolutely, completely support you bringing it to the IETF. All right. I think it's a decent document for, I mean, I read it once, so I could probably critique it, but, but it's a good problem statement document. It's a good problem to bring to the IETF. It's going to take more discussion to decide how and where it would be dealt with by the IETF. Maybe it goes through a new work process of some kind. I don't know.
Yep, understood.
Excuse me. I'm later in the queue, but I'll say my later in the queue thing later. Shingen, can you tell me how to say your name so I don't just keep standing here butchering it?
Yeah, Shengnan.
Okay, Shingen.
Yeah, I think the protocol quick can improve the performance of TCP in many scenarios we talked before, and if there also when the quick is used, the radius of quick the standards of for the radius of quick is better to have been prepared for it, and I think the radius of quick is very similar to radius of TCP or over TLS, but so I think it is has the same scope as them, and also the power line cases such as netconf over quick and so on, RTL quick in other IETF groups, they have been addressed with the corresponding protocol working group. So we think we have the similar cases. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I mean everyone has here was talking about the potential for radius over quick being interesting. That's not, I think we agree with you that it's potentially interesting. I think that if you look at the path that it took to get radius over TLS where it is today, people experimented with it, people implemented it, people wrote an experimental RFC many years ago. It was not deployed really operationally for a few years after that, but it has been deployed operationally in EDUROAM and in some organizations now for a few, I don't know, years, maybe 10, but I'm not sure that it's not fewer than that. And now we are standardizing it. Okay. Usually we want implementations, even interoperable ones is even better, but implementations and some experience with it, at least in a lab, that shows that it really works and that it really meets those potentials before we want to take it on and try to specify it. And then we might specify it as experimental at first to encourage more implementation. And this is just normally the process for something like this to go through the IETF would be a multi-stage, multi-year process before something that like fundamental is going to get enough support to be standardized. It's like, it should be encouraging that people are excited about it. But it doesn't just immediately come into a working group and become an RFC. It's going to need to be implemented and experimented with by people before we're going to be able to get to that stage.
I want to add that I agree with Margaret in general, and but on the other side, on the other hand, I think that we can put some more generic statement into the charter. For example, the working group can consider not immediately, but can consider using QUIC on some modern transport protocol. We even don't need to mention QUIC, but this will let the working group to adopt the document if any need an implementation appeared, and if people without rechartering. So in any case, the new charter, in my understanding, is more or less the maintenance charter. So all that is the working group will become not a focused working group as it is now, but it is more a maintenance working group that that is concerned with radius improvement or radius operational considerations or radius extensions will automatically somehow, perhaps not explicitly, but implicitly belong to the new charter. If of course, if our SecID agrees with this approach.
Yeah, Paul, the second. So I would probably be a little bit more concrete and do say like, the working group is going to have some initial investigations on radius over quick.
Yes.
That would be much better than saying we're going to do some fluffy thing with transport, because I will not be able to get that through the ISG. Maybe whoever follows me up will be able to do that, but I'm not sure if I can do that. So I recommend to put the radius over quick, and I think there is interest. So we'll put some language in there to sort of make it happen, but we'll make sure that it has a priority less than the other work that has more urgency.
We can also, that would let us like talk about it meetings and stuff. We don't have to put a milestone in for a radius over quick document and assign a document to it. Like the first month we have something in our charter either. We could say we're gonna consider it, and we could have an update. Like if people implement, we can have implementation updates and stuff until we think we're ready to actually get serious about publishing a document.
And it also doesn't stop the authors from updating their unadopted document and keep working on it, because
I made us actually tell them the hint because if they keep working on this document, it turns into something that is really promising and that is implemented and that people want to use operationally. That's great.
Right.
Mark?
Yeah, just on the quick issue, there was a side meeting this week on more quick, and I think it was interesting to listen there, and that was all about how to accelerate quick on the internet. But one of the key observations is there is a real lack of apples to apples comparisons about how much performance improvement quick gives you. So perhaps to turn it around, that if before we start embarking on the quick journey is to be able to clearly articulate, because we know it's perhaps more computationally expensive from a security perspective, but let's understand what performance benefits we get. Thank you.
So one of the things we probably ought to keep in mind here, and I think everyone knows this here, is that EAP over radius is a lockstep protocol. This is not a performance sensitive protocol. What we would be looking for Quick to fix is certain operational issues we have, pathological performance, things we can get stuck in. Not go faster. Go faster is not actually something we need. I mean, if we wanted to make a performance sensitive way to do authentication over radius, we'd come up with a way to not do it in 17 lockstep round trips, which is like what, a typical heap authentication takes. 17 being a number I pulled out of my head, but more than 10, less than 20, somewhere in there. We're talking about a slow protocol, and Quick is not going to make that faster. The lockstepping is what makes it slow, not how fast the transport moves the bits. Okay.
So Mark, was this your last slide or?
Yes, I think, was it? I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
So one comment on my end then. Perhaps what you really would like to do, since you have so many small documents, is to do an interim at the end of January or beginning of February. We make sure the charter is updated in time, and then you can do an interim meeting and you can just knock the first 3 off the.
Yeah, we could schedule it, and if TLS BIS is out, we do them, and if TLS BIS is still hanging on, we got to get it out.
Right.
That's.
Yeah. No, I agree. So yeah, so let's try to keep the momentum going and not just punt everything to March.
Yeah, I mean, my hope is that some of these documents could get out in the next couple months. I mean, some of them are just ready to go. They've been reviewed by us already. They've,
Right. So if they're that simple, then you might not even need an interim for it. Then let's just get the charter fixed as soon as possible.
All right. Well, we're with 4 minutes left. Anybody have anything else they want to say on this topic, or really anything else for the group, or are we going to get off a few minutes early? Seeing no one else, I guess we can get over to the reception. Valerie, I'm sorry you won't be at the reception with us. Someday we're going to be at the same meeting in person.
Hope so.
No.
I think it happened sometime.
I think it did once years ago, but it hasn't happened in years. So.
Okay. Thank you.
But some of these, they're just ready to go. They got to go through the steps because it's not like an IETF document. We just. Some of the ones